Hey, Al.
Hey, Barry.
What's a monk's favorite drink?
What?
See, I bet you thought I was going to say punch, but it's actually a mild green tea. It's time for Compelled Duel. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Compelled Duel. I'm Barry.
And I'm Al.
And we are a single-player, co-DM'd D&D 5e actual play podcast.
Previously on Compelled Duel.
I think that I should go talk to Father and try to Zone of Truth him.
Damn it.
I know we said we were in it together from now on, but I need you to let me do this.
I get your logic here, boss. I just want to make sure that you're in a good enough place to handle this.
What was he like?
He loved all of us a lot, is what I remember best. But if I know anything about my brother, he wouldn't want you to die for his justice. Val and his pretty lights, prancing around like he knew anything about that war. He was a coward, and he was a fool. And I loved him despite his faults. But as always, I bore the burden that no one else could. Valoran would have died within a few years anyway. He was sick, he was living on borrowed time, had been for decades. And he would have been remembered as the man who handed Australia to these bastards. At least I let him die a martyr.
Morlan Valcynes sits upon a throne won by lies, conspiracy, and fratricide. Hello. My name is Leoril Valcynes. I am the rightful Archduke of Australia, and it is my intent to bring this conflict to a halt.
Oh my god.
He did it. He really did it.
So, we pick up in the morning, a few days after Leo's big day. Leo, you are awoken from your trance by the now very familiar sensation of the mattress moving under you as Zed attempts to get out of bed without waking you up.
Leo cracks open one eye and groans.
Zed pauses by the bed in the middle of putting a pair of pants on. He's got one knee in the air. And then he flashes a big, crooked smile, and he says, "Good morning, Your Majesty."
I keep telling you to cut that shit out. What time is it?
He leans in, gives you a kiss on the cheek, and says, almost 9. We slept in a bit. I'm headed downstairs. Do you need anything?
Leo grins up at him sleepily. Well, since you're the one who won't let the joke go, His Majesty the Archduke would love breakfast in bed.
His Majesty the Archduke can keep fucking dreaming.
Jackass.
Zed is still grinning at you, and he says, "Love you too, boss."
If we were back in Australia, I'd have you put in the stocks.
Zed's eyebrows shoot up on his forehead, and he visibly bites down on the inside of his cheek for a second before he says, "Stocks, huh? Don't threaten me with a good time."
Leo throws a pillow at him. But then he's gonna get up and get ready for the day.
The two of you get up, start heading out. As you're walking down the hall, you hear voices from your Aunt Nora's study.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna poke my head in, because I'm betting that's probably important.
Your Aunt Nora is holding what you recognize as a stone of far speech in one hand and just rubbing at one of her temples with the other as she says, "No, Jorana, you have to back up or I can't." And a voice that you recognize as your Aunt Jorana comes out of the stone and says, "Nora, I can't see you. I don't think this thing is working." And Nora says, "Jorana, you have to back up. Just back up a little bit."
Oh, this is a great way to start off my morning. Good morning, Auntie Nora. Hi, Auntie Jorana.
Nora gives you a wave, and from the Stone of Far Speech, you hear your Aunt Jorana saying, "Oh, is that Leo?"
Just on instinct, Leo recoils like his cheeks are about to be pinched. Yeah, good to hear your voice. Love to stay and talk, but I've got a big day. I just proved that your older brother's a murderer and have to go deal with the fallout of that. Fee sends her love! And I run down the hallway.
As you're backing out of the doorway, your Aunt Nora holds one hand out to you.
Leo shakes his head regretfully and keeps moving.
You head downstairs on Zed's heels. When you get to the bottom of the stairs, he has stopped in the doorway into the dining room.
Leo draws up behind him. Oh no, did Verity try to cook again?
Zed looks over his shoulder at you and says, "No, maybe, I don't know. We've got company."
Leo brings both hands up to rub at his temples and then walks into the dining room.
As you walk in, sitting at the table with your uncle, both of your cousins, your sister, and various other members of your party, is Senator Tomás Highvale, holding a cup of coffee in one hand and a newspaper in the other.
Tomás, nice of you to drop by. Hope I didn't keep you waiting that long.
Tomás folds this newspaper that he's reading up and puts it on the table and says, "Not at all, but I think it's in all of our best interests if we get down to business."
Leo's gonna sit down and grab a cup of coffee and a pastry. My sentiments exactly. What's happening?
Tomás slides this newspaper closer to you across the table. And roll me a history check.
13?
Okay, yeah. A 13 is enough that you immediately absorb the headline on this paper, which is "Mass Desertion from Australian Navy Following Succession Crisis."
Leo grins around a sip of his coffee. Oh, fuck yes.
Tomás puts down his own cup of coffee and says, "Don't get too excited yet. You did some good work, but now we need follow-through."
Oh, no, absolutely, I get that, but desertion means holes in the blockade, right? Which means that we can get some supplies in for the people in all of the coastal Voldhuran cities. Is the captain in here right now?
Yes. He and Fee and Sabine are all kind of canoodling at one end of the table.
Leo, holding this newspaper in one hand and grinning very smugly, gestures down at the captain with his half-eaten pastry and goes, "Captain, do you think you could maybe spare some ships from the fleet, or at least the Banshee, to help protect any supply ships coming in?"
The captain, who was in the middle of being fed a strawberry by your sister.
Ew.
It's very gross. Stops, swallows very hard. The bulk of the fleet has to stay down south to protect the Zephyr Isles, but we could manage a small naval force to protect any supply ships coming in, sure." And then he tips his hat a little bit and says, "You'll need to handle the logistics side of it, though, since I can't..." And then he makes a vague hand gesture. "Make that happen on my own?"
Yeah, that'll take a few sending spells, but I can do it. But Tomás, what's the exact kind of follow-through that you're looking for here?
Tomás does not meet your eyes. He takes a big sip of his coffee. "Well, that's the thing. You'll need to put in an appearance at around 3 o'clock this afternoon. The vote to allow the emergency Senate session went through. I decided to back down." There is a small but still audible wet plonk as Fee drops the end of a strawberry onto the tablecloth. You what?
Agreed. You what?
Tomás puts both hands up in kind of a simmer down gesture, and then says, with your father's confession, and Leoril's charming speech following it, you've got enough political weight behind you now that you'll be able to make a solid case before the Senate. Solid enough to stop a formal war declaration, anyway. And then he puts one hand down on the table, just his fingertips, and looks you in the eye and leans closer and says, a desperate plea from an exiled prince is one thing, but the will of the rightful Archduke of Astraria is quite another.
Leo puts the newspaper down and kind of just stares over at Tomás. And what am I supposed to say to the Senate that's gonna be able to stop this war?
Tomás leans back. That's up to you, isn't it? I got you in the door. That was my role to play. Down at the other end of the table, Fee just puts her head in her hands. You watch Sabine squeeze her shoulder and the captain lean over to rub her back as she says, oh, fuck.
Seconded. We'll need some time to prepare, obviously, but we'll meet you there. Thank you, Tomás, for the heads up and for everything else.
Tomás stands up, brushes off his loose, brightly colored shirt, and says, don't thank me yet. I'll see you at the meeting.
Fee, a few hours later, you are standing quietly in the corner of your brother and Zed's room. Leo is sitting at the vanity, obsessively fussing with his hair. He's like putting a braid up and taking it down and putting it back up again for the 5th time in a row. He's got on a very nice set of formal Astrarian robes. He had to borrow them from your Uncle Boreas, who is not a big dude, but is still taller and wider than him, so they're hanging off his shoulders a little bit and draping a couple inches behind him on the floor. He looks over at you with this big smile that is trying way too hard and goes, okay, so do I look archdukely?
By what metric?
Well, I mean, the only metric either of us have is the old man, and his fashion sense sucks, so I don't want to use him as a goalpost.
Well, yes, but Uncle Boreas doesn't have that much better of a fashion sense, and you're borrowing his clothes.
Should I just put on my outfit from the gala? I'm thinking I should just put on my outfit from the gala.
If you're comfortable showing that much skin in front of the entire Senate, by all means. I mean, the chest piece and the choke me jacket are a little much. I'd lose those, but...
Okay, so I walk into the most important political event of my life, either looking like a child playing dress-up, or like a slut that knows what he's doing. He pauses for a while, staring at himself in the mirror, nods, and goes, slut it is, and then disappears behind a privacy screen in the corner of the room.
As he's doing that, Fee says, do you want me to match that energy as I'm backing you up, or should I wear my armor?
Leo pokes his head around the edge of the screen and squints at you. Well, I'm afraid wearing the armor in would look a little too combative for what we're trying to do here, but if we both walk in there looking like eye candy, people might not take us seriously.
Fair enough. I suppose I could borrow something from Aunt Nora. We'll match well enough, you with your thighs out, me with no sleeves.
Fair enough, you go do that. I'll meet you downstairs.
Yeah, alright. Fee's gonna get a set of robes from Nora. Hopefully one that covers some of her arms.
Your Aunt Nora is able to provide you with a very nice, practical set of Astrarian formal robes. You two are about the same size. She's got a little more muscle mass than you do, but the outfit fits pretty well. You finish getting changed and meet your brother downstairs in the foyer. He has managed to at least somewhat tone down his gala outfit to make it look a little more professional. He has cast a mending cantrip on the slit in the side so that it's not up to his thigh anymore, it's only like up to the knee. Zed, Sabine, and the captain are all waiting down there for you. Sabine and the captain both come over, give you a little kiss on the cheek, and the captain reaches down to squeeze your hand. All right, lass. Best of luck to you. And Zed, who is in the middle of giving Leo a big hug, looks over the top of his head and goes, trust me, guys, from my experience, letting Leo go into a room full of big fancy politicians and make a speech is always enough to either start a war or stop one.
Given that only one of those options is, acceptable, Zed, I don't think that was as comforting as you meant it to be.
Zed just kind of shrugs at you like, what can you do? And then kisses Leo on the forehead and walks off to hang out in the sitting room. And without much further ado, you and your brother head out. Nora took the liberty of calling a taxi for you. And you pile into the back of this little streetcar that zooms through the streets of Voldhur deep into the center of the city. You pass mind-bogglingly tall buildings, examples of grand architecture, before finally pulling up in front of this huge building with a big marble dome and several columns holding up the front of it. You have never been to the Senate chambers before, but your taxi driver seems to know where he's going and lets you out. Leo pauses at the bottom of the large staircase leading up to the door of this building, looks at you, and goes, okay, are we ready?
As we'll ever be.
He reaches down to squeeze your hand, and then lets it go and leads you up the stairs through the grand front doors of this building. You enter into a big, high-ceilinged lobby of sorts, and this place is just packed with people. There are several members of the Voldhur media milling about, journalists, newspaper reporters, kind of flitting back and forth across the flat marble floor of this room. But moreover, you see that it is crowded with people that are all dressed very similarly. The makeup of this group of people is overwhelmingly gnomish and dwarvish, and mostly men, but not exclusively either. You notice, however, that they are all wearing the same white waistcoat and red sash across their chest. For a moment, you are lost in the chatter of all of these people bouncing off the marble walls of this lobby. And then you hear a comfortingly familiar voice go, "There you two are!" As Tomás Highvale, also in a white waistcoat, red sash, comes charging across the room at you. He sort of pulls you off to the side, looking over his shoulder before turning back to you and going, "You two clean up nicely. Iggy sends his love, and also says good luck and watch out for the supersonic subliminal radio messages."
How would we...
I have no idea, but apparently he knows, and I'm just supposed to pass on the message. I was also given 2 pretty tacky little tinfoil pins for you two to wear. Don't take them. I'll just tell him you did.
We appreciate the thought.
Tomás gives you a tight little smile and then pivots so he is kind of guiding you to face the rest of the people milling about in this room. Okay, so there are a few people you're going to want to keep an eye on, the first of which being... He nods towards the front door that you just came through, where an entourage of folks are making their way into this lobby. You notice that they are surrounding this very slight little gnomish man in the equivalent of like his late 50s, slicked back dark hair with a few gray streaks in it. He's wearing a very practical suit with a rich purple velvet sash draped across one shoulder. And he is surrounded by... Fee, you're royalty. You know a bodyguard when you see one. Just a whole crew of bodyguards. Tomás nods at this whole cluster of people and quietly mutters, "That would be the Emperor, Lucius Servilius. He will mostly be here for ceremonial purposes unless things get really off the rails." More relevant to our situation, however, if you see a self-important old man walking around with a lot of military medals on his sash, you can assume that he's a member of the National Defense Committee. Those are the people you're trying to impress, given that they are the ones who want to blow an armada of retreating ships out of the water.
That seems a little excessive.
If you haven't yet noticed, Grand Duchess, excess is the prime directive of the Voldhuran war machine. He opens his mouth to say something else, but gets cut off by this creaky voice from a few yards away. "Highvale, not you trying to soften up the man of the hour on his big day." And Fee, approaching from the side, you see a positively ancient dwarvish man with a big, magnificent beard and a red sash across his white waistcoat, absolutely laden down with fancy medals of military service. Go ahead and roll me perception.
14.
On either side of you, you hear Leo and Tomás both go, "Ugh."
Reassuring. Awesome.
Tomás recovers first, his face breaking out into this pinched little smile. "Wouldn't dream of it, Maximus." Leo isn't far behind in his recovery, bending down and giving this very old man a firm handshake. "No, not at all. Tomás was just kindly helping us get acquainted with the political climate. Great to see you again. I don't believe you've met..." And this guy turns around to look at you, Fee, eyes twinkling. "Ah, yeah, you must be the sister." And he sticks a hand out in your direction. "Senator Maximus Greyriver, chairman of the National Defense Committee. How you doing?"
Fee winces as she reaches out to take this guy's hand and shake it. "I'm doing well, Senator Maximus. Phirora, Valcynes. I've read your book. I found it very enlightening."
Fee, your hand aches a little from how hard he is gripping it in this handshake, and you can tell pretty easily that it's a power play. But after a moment, he lets go, steps back, and nods at both you and Leo. "That was a real sucker punch you two pulled on your old man the other night. Smart move. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to talk before the meeting starts, but come find me during the recess. I got a proposition I think the two of yous would like to hear. Oh, and Highvale." He turns over to Tomás, and his smile goes stony, and all of the twinkle disappears from his eyes. "Little bit of free career mentorship for your son. You should stick to your parks and post offices, and leave war to the people that actually know what they're talking about." Tomás, to his credit, does not let his expression waver one bit, and instantly shoots back, "See, that's the thing, Maximus. The people I represent don't want this war. I'm here to serve their interests, not my own. Something we should all strive to do." Your little corner of this grand lobby goes very silent for a moment, and you could cut the tension between Tomás Highvale and Maximus Greyriver with a knife. But eventually, Maximus takes a step back from the conversation, nods at Tomás, and goes, "Careful, kid. It's coming close to sedition to suggest that the interests of Voldhur are contrary to the interests of a people. You kids take care now. And he pivots on his heel and walks off to talk to a couple other very old, self-important looking men with lots of military medals on their sashes.
Fee rolls her shoulders back, grimaces, and says, "Well, he seems lovely."
You notice that Leo's eyes are following him around the room as he walks away. Yeah, do you see how I got the impression that he wants something?
I'm beginning to. I'm just not sure what that something could be.
For the first time since you've met him, you see Tomás's face curl into a very distasteful expression. Maximus Greyriver wants a lot of things, and none of those things take into account the thousands of people relying on him to act in their best interests. Anyway, he turns over to Leo and braces a hand on his shoulder. I've been able to guarantee you at least 5 minutes on the floor. You need to cover several talking points in that time. First of all, that your claim to the throne, at least in terms of Astrarian law, is ironclad. Second of all, that your father's military resources are actively in the process of abandoning him. And third of all, that the situation that instigated this emergency meeting, namely the debacle on the night of the gala, did not actually result in the loss of Voldhuran life.
Fee kind of leans a little closer and says, "That would be a good point if it hadn't."
Tomás cuts his eyes sideways over at you. It didn't.
We found bodies in the access tunnels going down to the mechanism.
No, you didn't.
Yes, we...
Leo reaches down and grabs your hand. Fee. No, we didn't. Tomás looks back and forth between the two of you and nods grimly. Nobody died in the tunnels that night, and their families don't miss them. I did my job. Now it's your turn to go out there and do yours.
Right. Leo, can I talk to you?
Leo frowns at you. Yeah, sure, Tomás, we'll see you inside once everything gets started, okay? And then he pulls you a little further down the wall of this room, off into a little side hallway.
As soon as they're not, out in the middle of people, Fee's looking around a little and going, "Okay, so I understand the point, but I don't like this."
Leo squints at you. I mean, you don't like what? You don't like the situation holistically? Neither do I. But we have to play the hand we've been dealt.
I don't like not only accepting that innocent civilian lives will be lost, but actively working to minimize that loss. I think if we accept that and we move forward knowing that we have to make that sort of compromise, that's how people end up like Father is. And that scares me.
Leo looks haunted as you say this to him. But then he sucks in a breath through his teeth and looks out towards the lobby. Look, I don't like it either, but this isn't an ethical debate, Fee. It's politics. You could argue that it's the polar opposite of an ethical debate, and how many more people stand to die if I can't make this argument stick?
I know, I'm just... And Fee kind of reaches up to pinch the bridge of her nose. I'm just saying, watch your step. That's all.
I will do my best, but I'm just saying, I think we both need to come to terms that we're past the point where either of us can do anything we truly feel good about anymore. I, for one, am learning very quickly that there's a big difference between heroism and harm reduction. But I know which one I'm capable of right now. There's the deep sound of a loud, clanging bell that rings out through this building around you, and you hear the sound of people moving out of the lobby and further into the building.
Shit. All right, let's just go.
Yeah, let's get this over with. And the two of you move out of this hallway through the rapidly emptying lobby and towards the Senate chambers of Voldhur.
Leo, you and your sister, along with everyone else here, move into the Senate chambers. It is this, amphitheater-like area. Marble risers, red velvet curtains on the walls. There's a little box opposite the door that you see the Emperor make a beeline to. Everybody settles down as things get started. As various people start arguing policy, it feels very similar to the meetings that you sat in on in Tordoon, which makes it kind of a mindfuck that less than a year and a half later, you are in a very similar position trying to prevent a war instead of start one.
Yeah, mindfuck is the word I would also pick for it. Leo sits down between Fee and Tomás, pulls a little notebook out of his pocket, and starts making notes on the proceedings.
Since this is an emergency Senate session, the senators are mostly discussing whether or not to officially declare war on Australia. There's a lot of discussions about the treaties that officially ended the last war, about how they are null and void if either side commits an act of aggression. There's a lot of economic discussion that you don't really get. You're not an economist. And you see a lot of people that have military badges on their senator sashes, much like Maximus Greyriver, come up and discuss the potential of what could have happened when the wheel stopped, and the potential of what could have happened if the Australian Navy had fired closer to the city. It's a lot of very scary things that are possibilities, but as far as you know, nothing that they're discussing actually happened. That kind of situation. You notice a lot of unease in these seats. All in all, it's about an hour of these speeches before you get called up.
Leo is trying very hard to not outwardly show how nervous he is, but he reaches down and squeezes Fee's hand so hard that both of their bones creak. And then stands up and walks down to wherever he's supposed to be giving this address from. Can I roll insight to, read the room on how they feel about me?
Go ahead.
18?
Not good. You've noticed that there is a vibe in Voldhur in general about the sacrosanct nature of Voldhur as a nation, and the discussion of the fact that even though, as far as they know, no damage was done, there was an attack on Voldhuran soil seems to have rattled a lot of people. You don't notice an overwhelming vibe of hostility so much as a lot of wariness, but there is a fair share of hostility there as well. It's just not most people.
Whew, okay, should have worn my tap shoes. I'm about to have to do a hell of a dance.
As you get up, Fee has gotten a little piece of scrap paper from your notepad and has just written "Go Leo" on it, and she holds it up between her hands. It's 2 inches long.
Leo smiles at her nervously from the floor, but then rolls his shoulders back and turns to face the Senate at large. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. As previously stated, my name is Leoril Valcynes. I am the rightful Archduke of Australia. I'm sure you all follow the news here in Voldhur religiously, but just in case you have missed the past several times this has been broadcast, I would like to present to you Exhibit A. He brought the pen that Aedra made with him and lifts it up over his head, clicks the button, and plays back Morland's confession. and then slowly puts it back down and tucks it back into his shirt. Let me just start by assuring you all that there is not a single legal body in Australia that will deny my claim to the throne after being presented with this evidence. I have heard your concerns about the safety of your nation and your people, and I empathize with them. I am also concerned with the safety of my nation and my people. And on that note, I would remind the Senate that as we speak, dozens of Australian ships are deserting and heading home. This is creating holes in the blockade that will allow supply ships to come through. Supply ships that I personally have contacted allies in the Zephyr Isles to send naval reinforcements to protect. Because I would not lead an Australia that allows people to starve in the name of old grudges. Every day, more and more people are finding out what my father is. And because of that, every day the Australian threat to Voldhur is going to diminish. The events the night of the gala were unfortunate and frightening, I admit this. But they resulted in no direct loss of Voldhuran life, and the sum total of Australian fire on the city resulted in little more than a few dents in the side of the mountain. This act of aggression was nothing more than the extinction burst of a corrupt despot who is rapidly realizing that he is losing everything. And I implore the Senate to question whether my father's final temper tantrum is worth the cost of thousands of Voldhuran lives. I would implore the Senate to make the decision not to burn bridges, and homes, and families, and cities, and nations, and make the decision to build them instead. My father's grip on his crown is slipping rapidly, and once it is in my hands, rather than reactionary policies and pointless war, I present to the Senate a future where people from both of our countries no longer have to suffer and die for the petty squabbles of frightened old men. Please think on it. Thank you for your time.
Leo, roll a persuasion check, please.
Dirty 20.
You finish your speech. There's a pause. And then you start to hear a lot of murmuring from the seats as people discuss what you just said with each other. And from up in the seats where Tomás and his allies are, you hear a slow stomp of a foot. And then it starts growing, and it is not the whole Senate by any means, but a lot of people are agreeing with you, it seems. Up in the Emperor's box, you hear somebody smack a big drum, and over the chatter, you hear the Emperor yell, "Order! Everyone settle down!" Everybody shuts up. And this little middle-aged gnomish dude in the purple sash stands up. You watch him dust his hands off. You get the feeling that his voice is being magically projected somehow, because you hear it clear as a bell from up where he is. All right. Setting aside the issue of actually declaring war for the moment, we are all senators going to have to vote on whether or not this body recognizes Leoril Valcynes as the effective Archduke of Australia for the purposes of negotiating an end to this conflict. Understood? And as one, the Senate all stomps a foot in agreement so hard that you feel the marble floor under you rumble.
Can I roll a bonus action hide?
Are you going to do that?
No, but I want to.
You watch as what appear to be political interns go around to each of the senators and collect little ballots. There is a lull as this happens, where you are still standing here, feeling the eyes of the center of Voldhuran government upon you. All of these ballots go back to the Emperor's box, and there's a long moment of silence, and then he says, "Right.
The Senate recognizes 8 abstaining votes.
Leo sucks in a breath and holds it.
There's another pause, and then the Emperor says,
And with a 60-vote majority, myself, Emperor Lucius Civilius, first in my name, and thus the Senate, recognize Leoril Valcynes as the effective head of the Astrarian state.
Yes!
Do you do that out loud on the Senate floor?
I gotta play my character. Yes, I do. Leo does a little fist pump.
Let me roll something really quick. Okay. Nobody notices you doing that because there is an uproar from the seats. You would assume from the people that did not vote to recognize you as the effective Archduke for negotiation purposes. There is a loud boom noise as up in the Emperor's box, one of his entourage hits a big drum again, and the Emperor yells,
All right, everyone settle down.
Everybody does not settle down. So the Emperor yells,
I'm calling a recess. Everyone cool off.
and some people start to shuffle out the doors to the Senate chamber.
Leo's gonna try to find his way back to Fee and Tomás.
Fee and Tomás are making their way down from the seats to you as people are shoving past each other to get out the doors. Make a quick perception check for me.
19.
Yeah, you notice Maximus Greyriver and the rest of the senators that kind of attire themselves the way that he does with the military medals on the sashes. You notice them all muttering amongst each other, and then as a unit, they get up from their seats and head out the doors.
Leo squints at this group of people and then looks over at Tomás. Okay, so, where does everybody go on a recess?
There are separate meeting rooms for each of the committees down the hall. I mean, not everyone goes there, but it's usually a safe bet.
I'm gonna send a message cantrip to Fee. I'd like to try to zap Kimmerl's blade out of its bracer under my robes so no one can see it and point at her to cast the spell. Do you want me to roll, like, sleight of hand or something?
Yes, please roll sleight of hand.
24.
You manage to zap Kimmerl's blade out of your bracer in your sleeve and kind of hide it under a fold of your robes.
Okay, I'm gonna point over at Fee as subtly as I can, cast message, and telepathically tell her, I'm gonna go snoop around and see what we're dealing with. I need you to cover for me.
You watch Fee's eyebrows furrow a little bit. I'm gonna have her roll deception and then have Tomás contest it with insight. Okay, Fee gets a 28. And Tomás got, a 15. No. So you, because you know your sister, see this furrow in her brows for a second, and then she turns over to Tomás with kind of a bashful smile and says, I was feeling a bit too nervous to have much for breakfast this morning. I'm feeling a little peaky. Is there somewhere I could grab a bite or sit down maybe? Tomás gives her kind of a look of concern and says, oh yeah, sure, here. And holds a hand out towards her arm and says, may I?
I'll catch up with you two later. I'm gonna go take a recess of my own to the little boy's room.
I want you also to roll deception, but with advantage.
I still have proficiency because of Ghost Valor, and have fun. 23.
Okay, Tomás notices nothing. He leads Fee out of the room and down the hall, and as you watch them walk out, you see the ghost of your Uncle Valoran in his pajamas, standing in the hallway with his head tilted to the side, looking down the direction the National Defense Committee went. And he looks back at you, tilts his head the other way, and you watch him mouth just the word, really?
Leo shrugs at him and goes, it's not the quality of the excuse, it's the quality of the delivery. And then gives him a little two-finger salute and heads off towards the committee chambers. I would like to go as stealth as I possibly can.
Okay, as you start walking down the hall, The ghost of your uncle falls into step with you. Roll a stealth check.
Well, that was a 3, but I get a plus 15, so it's still an 18.
You walk down the hall to a door that is labeled National Defense Committee. You hear voices from inside, but you can't make out what they're saying from the hall.
I'm gonna ride that stealth check to take a hide action, so nobody in the hallway can see me if they walk down.
Okay, Leo ducks behind a ficus like in a cartoon. The ghost of your Uncle Valoran stays standing in front of it and just cranes his head around to look at you through the leaves, quizzically.
Well, shit, I'm hiding, so I don't want to talk. I'm gonna try to send a message cantrip to the ghost? What, do you have any better ideas?
You send a message to the ghost?
I mean, I try to. The wording of the spell says you can target a creature. I assume the ghost is a creature.
Leo, roll me a wisdom saving throw.
Bitch, what?
You heard me, roll me a wisdom saving throw.
I feel like this is payback for some reason. 14. I get a plus 10 to whiz saves. I rolled a 4.
You point at the ghost, you send this message. You know from your experience at the museum that the ghosts cannot talk back to you. But as you send this message, there's a pause. And then there's just this torrent of voices that just hit you like right in the brain like a knife. There are whispers, there are screams, there is just this huge tide of noise being beamed directly into your head. You take 2d8 psychic damage.
What?
You heard me. You take 8 psychic damage. And then I want you to roll me a religion check to pick out the voice that is actually responding to you.
Religion?
You heard me. Roll religion.
I'm getting so much more than I signed up for today. Okay. I can't just win. I can't just win. Natural fucking 20. 28.
Okay. Your knees give out from under you. You catch the pot that the ficus is in with, like, your funny bone. That hurts. As this just rush of noise hits your brain. I think you reflexively close your eyes for a second, and when you open them, the ghost of your Uncle Valoran is right up in your face. This ghost locks eyes with you. And as his expression goes very grave and very serious, and he looks a lot like your father, you hear, raising above this tide of noise in your head, this smooth, deep voice that sounds like it is fighting to get through at all. With a nat 20, you hear it pretty clearly. You need to be more careful. Watch your step. You watch this ghost's eyes cut sideways to look at this door, and his mental voice sounds like he is exerting a lot of effort and shouting over a crowd. Keep track of who your enemies are. At least do it better than I did. And then he disappears.
Leo stays curled up on the ground behind this potted plant for a second, just clutching at his head, trying to fight his way through what is now probably a pretty vicious migraine. But then he plants both palms on the marble and pushes himself back up to his knees and pulls out his holy symbol. Keep track of who your enemies are. Got it. I cast Clairvoyance right behind the door. There's no save for it unless somebody on the other side of that door has true sight or see invisibility. They cannot see the sensor. I can choose seeing or hearing for up to 10 minutes. I would like to hear what is going on in this meeting of the National Defense Committee.
Okay. You hear Maximus Greyriver talking.
Gentlemen, I understand. I hear what you're saying. I'm with you. I agree. But I've been waiting to nail that Valcyne punk to the wall since Omegroth. And I can't think of anything fucking better than using his kid as the hammer. So have some patience. Let me talk to him.
There's a rush of voices arguing with him, and Greyriver's voice cuts through and just says,
He's young, he's fucking stupid, he's practically begging for approval, and I already have an inroad. So if you would all just let me try and do this my way first, let's see what happens. And if it doesn't work, there's always somebody else.
I'm gonna keep the clairvoyance spell going, but I am no longer hiding behind the ficus. Leo stands up, brushes down the front of his robes, and goes to stand opposite the door to the committee room. And he's gonna make his best fucking effort to look young, stupid, and hungry for approval.
Can you roll performance for me really quick, bud?
16.
That'll do it. The National Defense Committee walk out of this room, led by Senator Maximus Greyriver. What are you doing?
Leo looks at all of them very wide-eyed, and then puts on this big, bemused smile. Oh, I'm so sorry. I went out to get some air and I can't seem to find my way back to the Senate chambers. I think I'm in the wrong place.
They all blink at you for a second. Greyriver recovers first, puts on a big, wide plastic smile, and says,
You're a little turned around, yeah, kid. But, probably better that you ended up here. I was hoping to, have that private conversation we discussed at the gala.
Leo is still shooting for that big, doe-eyed expression. Oh, of course, I'd be happy to. What was it you wanted to talk about?
Maximus Greyriver grabs you by the elbow and says,
Let's go somewhere a little more, secluded.
Oh, absolutely, lead the way.
Greyriver leads you around a corner to kind of a alcove with a big bay window. He looks around like he's trying to make sure no one's listening in.
Look, kid. You and I both know you made a lot of promises in there. But as a military man myself, I can tell you, even with the desertion problem that the Australian Navy's having right now, you're gonna need backup if you got any hope of winning this thing. Recognition of the Senator, no. You're gonna need a little bit of bargaining power if you want to have an actual negotiation. You understand?
And what kind of bargaining power are you proposing here?
The kind that lets you take some real fucking action, kid. You're the rightful Archduke of Australia, sure. Can you take that rightful claim and pass a law? Command your military? Do anything of real consequence? All I'm saying is, if you want that claim to mean something, then eventually you're gonna have to go back to Australia and make it happen. And if and when you do that, you might have a bit more luck if you do it with some Voldhuran military might at your back. I can make that happen for you.
Leo squints at him. So, and let me get this straight here. You're proposing that I abandon all of this and go home with an invading Voldhuran force in tow.
Maximus waves a hand dismissively at you and says,
A supportive Voldhuran force. It's different.
Is it? I'll be frank with you, Maximus. I'm already looking at an uphill battle. My father, for everything else that he is a war hero, and almost universally loved by our people because of that. And given the current Australian political narrative, at my very best, I am the arrogant party boy who shirked my duty and ran off into the great wide world only to decide that I wanted it back a few years later. My people have no great love for me, and they'll have even less if my homecoming is backed up by battalions of Voldhuran soldiers. Pardon my candor, but what you're suggesting isn't help. It's the opening notes to an Australian civil war, and No. That's not what I want, and it sure as hell isn't something I'm willing to enable. I am many things, but I am not my father. I won't forge a crown in the blood of my own people.
Senator Maximus Greyriver's face goes extremely stony, and he says,
Then I question how much you really want it, kid.
Leo matches that facial expression with a glare and a raised eyebrow that exceed it, crosses both arms over his chest, and cocks his hip out to the side. How much I really want it. I have spent the last 6 years of my life trying to get my hands on that crown, and the 100 before it trying to convince my father that I deserved it. And now I am standing in the epicenter of Voldhuran government, talking to a bitter old has-been whose claim to fame is writing stories patting himself on the back for the slaughter of my people about how much I want the Australian throne. I don't. I don't want it. But I recognize that it is far more dangerous in my father's hands than it is in mine. And the only thing I want anymore is to mitigate that danger.
Maximus Greyriver takes a step back, sneers at you, and says,
So not only can you not keep your fucking mouth shut, but you're an idealist. That's a shame. Seemed like a smart kid. I expected better from you.
Yeah, you and my father both. I'm starting to suspect that the two of you are cut from the same cloth. I'll see you back in the Senate chambers, and we'll see then just how much my idealism pays off.
Suppose we will.
and then he walks off down the hall.
Fee, you are sitting in a little cafeteria area with Senator Tomás Highvale, with a very nice sandwich and cup of coffee that he has bought for you. He is currently fretting over your blood sugar levels.
Well, now I feel bad, so thank you for that.
You're welcome. Tomás is halfway through suggesting that you should go see the staff nurse here at the Senate chambers when you see your brother enter through the far door of this room and make a beeline over for your table. Leo looks more pissed than anything, really, and he just folds himself into a chair, gripping white-knuckled at the edge of the table, and goes, "Tomás, does the cafeteria serve tequila?"
Tomás, please don't answer that.
I mean, the answer was no, but you seem like you've been through it, Leoril. Care to share with the class? Leo grimaces and then reaches out and grabs the other half of your sandwich, Fee, and takes a bite out of it.
Yeah, sure, you can have that.
Oh, thanks. So anyway, I did a little bit of snooping and figured out what Greyriver's up to, and I am just ready to... Ooh!
Well, what did you figure out? What happened?
Well, the whole plan that the National Defense Committee has right now, ever since I've been affirmed as the effective Archduke, is to allow me to go home with, and I quote, Voldhuran backup, and basically foment an Australian civil war and install me on the throne as a Voldhuran puppet. I let Maximus know on no uncertain terms that this was not going to happen, and he got a little testy. Across the table, Tomás puts his head in his hands, and then looks up at you from between his fingers, Fee. You weren't feeling faint, were you?
No, I'm sorry.
Not as sorry as you're going to be. You know, Leoril, if you had come and talked to me about the specific way that political give and take works here in Voldhur, I might have informed you that you don't ever make your ambitions clear, especially not to your political opponents.
I mean, to be fair, it sounds like Greyriver did that. I'll shut up.
Greyriver has votes, something neither of you have. Tomás looks like he's on the verge of a panic attack right now. And across the wide open space of this cafeteria, you hear that same deep, sonorous bell ringing. His shoulders go even tighter, and he gives you both this fragile, wobbling smile. And we'll see how that plays out. It appears that we're going back into session.
Fee would like to dissolve into the stones right now.
Unfortunately, you are not a druid. You do not have that spell. You all get up from this table and start moving back towards the Senate chamber. Leo is just quietly seething the whole time you are walking. He looks like he is ready to punch a wall.
Fee is gonna grab him by the arm and, in Elvish, say, "Cool your jets in case you need to be able to make a speech, Leo."
In Elvish, Leo replies, "Oh, I have a speech that I would like to make to that," followed by several expletives that are not translatable into common. But then he kind of takes a deep breath and pinches the fingers of both hands up in front of his face. Okay, no, I'm good. I'm cool.
Yeah, you definitely seem cool. Let's just go in. It's fine.
You all move back into the Senate chambers, take the seats near Tomás that you were occupying before the recess, and then another loud bell goes off, and you see the Emperor come up into his box. Again, with his voice somehow magically magnified, you're assuming, he says to the room at large, "All right, everybody, it's been a long day, and I'm sure we've all got other commitments. You've all discussed this in your committees. We're going to go ahead and take a vote now. Should the Voldhuran Empire declare war on Australia?" And the ballots start going out. Tomás gets handed a ballot. All of the senators sitting around you also get handed one. You see Tomás emphatically cross out no on this ballot. Fee, go ahead and roll me insight.
Natural 16, so it's a 15.
Across this big amphitheater type area from you, you see Maximus Greyriver just fixing your whole group with a death glare. And then right next to you, you watch Leo look up, meet his eyes, and give him this pinched, sarcastic little smile. You watch Greyriver grumble to himself and cross something off sharply on his ballot before passing it to one of the interns that are walking around to collect it. There is a very long, uncomfortable pause as all of these ballots go up to the Emperor's box and are counted. But then you see him stand up. It appears he's on some kind of box to be seen over the railing. He's a very slight little gnomish dude. And he says, "All right, for the first time in the last 200 years, we have ourselves a 50-50 tie." And beside you, you hear Tomás whisper, "Oh, fuck."
What do you mean, oh fuck? Please elaborate.
When there's a 50-50 tie on a Senate vote, the Emperor is the tiebreaker.
I take it back. I wish you hadn't elaborated.
On the bench nearby, you see your brother just slowly curling into the fetal position.
If it isn't our oldest enemy, the consequences of our own actions.
Yeah, that sure is a thematic element here, huh? Okay. And now, because of certain people's hubris,
Yeah, certain people. We have no way of knowing who.
I am going to roll a luck check. Okay. There is another long, stressful pause as all the members of the Senate fall silent, looking to their emperor for what he's going to do next. He sort of looks around, nods at everybody, and then puts both hands up. Frankly, my friends, I cannot make an informed decision on this until I have consulted with my council of advisors. We will resolve this vote at the next official session of the Senate.
Come again? Once more? What?
Tomás brings up a hand to pinch at the bridge of his nose. Oh, great, that's gonna go so well for everybody.
Is he allowed to do that? Just not make a decision?
He's the Emperor, Phirora. He's allowed to do whatever he wants. What you two need to consider is that the Emperor's Council of Advisors consists of the chairman of each Senate committee, so I'll be there, fighting for my fucking life along with both of yours, but so will Maximus Greyriver.
Shit. Okay.
Leo is still curled up in the bench with his head buried in both of his arms. Oh, I did something bad. The thing I did was bad.
Yeah, a little bit. Just a little bit, yeah.
I mean, was the thing I did maybe a bit good? We know what he wants now?
He takes a very deep breath and goes, "Yep, we know what he wants. That's a point in our favor. Except that we don't know what he wants now, because you told him to shove that offer."
Yeah, we don't know what he wants now, and we also don't know what... Oh, fuck.
Leo, I'm gonna be really honest with you. I'm like this close to a panic attack, so if you could refrain from cutting off mid-sentence to curse cryptically, that would be really great. Just, for me, for my sake.
Oh, okay, you want me to elaborate? Fee, I'll elaborate. There were broadcasting professionals here for that entire session. How much of it made its way onto the broadcasting network?
I don't know. Probably all of it.
Leo whips back around in the bench to look at Tomás. Tomás, would it have been all of it? Everything, including me being declared the de facto Archduke of Astraria? Tomás, looking just exhausted, scoffs and goes, "Oh yeah, that's gonna be the biggest news story for the next 2 weeks, my friend. I guarantee you it made it onto the broadcasting network."
Why do we care about it being on the news?
Because if the public at large knows, then so does Father.
So, as the Senate meeting lets out, Leo, what are you doing?
Giving copious thanks and apologies to Tomás for all of the mayhem that I have caused here today, and then grabbing Fee and booking it back for the garage.
Okay, you do so. As you walk in, several members of your party are sitting around a radio. A few people are holding champagne flutes. Ravane has gotten some kind of party spinner, and as you walk in, Zed goes, "Ooh, ooh, ooh," like a football player with the fist pump.
Everybody put your celebratory devices away. I fucked up real bad.
A party popper goes off in Verity's hand, and she goes, "Oops." And then Sabine, sitting over at the table, pinching the bridge of her nose, says, "Okay, how exactly did you fuck up?"
Oh, that's a really long story, and I will be happy to update you on it later. For now, I need access to the back room, or somewhere else private, and I'm going to need Fee and Zed for emotional support.
You, Fee, and Zed head off towards the back room. As you approach, you hear this brassy tenor voice saying, "And I can stop by the bakery tomorrow. Do you still like fig jam in your pastries, or?" And you hear Ereve respond, "You really don't need to do that." This voice says back, "I know I don't need to." And then there's a long pause. Ereve, you know if you gave me a real no, I'd stop. I like a good chase, but I have no interest in beating down a beautiful woman's door until I'm too inconvenient to get rid of. And then Ereve says, "I've actually been wanting to try this pomegranate croissant I saw the other day. It seemed interesting." Another pause, and this first voice says, "I'll keep that in mind."
Leo is so far past giving a shit, he's barging in.
You see Ereve making notes on a city map, and a couple seats down with his feet propped up on the table, you see a man that can only be the Florian Javaris you've heard mentions of. He is like ghostly pale, white hair, big floppy sun hat on. He doesn't have his sunglasses on, he's kind of holding them in one hand, so you can see that his eyes are almost colorless and they are twitching back and forth as he's just sitting there very calmly. As you walk in, he almost falls out of his chair as he attempts to sit up. You get the feeling Sabine has yelled at him for having his feet up on the table. And Ereve, her cheeks very dark, looks up, adjusts her glasses, clears her throat. Did everything go well?
Emphatically not. Hate to interrupt a tender moment, but we need the room.
It's not a... Right. Ereve stands up, dusts herself off, and then she turns to Florian and she says, "I could actually really go for that croissant right now. You're buying, right?" Florian just gets this big smile on his face and puts his sunglasses back on. "Absolutely, Ms. Enmar."
As they're on their way out, Leo's gonna nod at Florian and kind of smirk. "I like your hat."
Florian pauses, puts a hand to his chest, and gives you the nod back. "Thank you. Your vibes are just impeccable."
"Likewise."
Zed, off to the side, says, "Anyway, boss, what exactly did you need emotional support for?"
Leo collapses into the nearest chair and digs his crystal ball out of his bag. "It has come to my attention that, our adversaries may have access to the same information that we do, and I just want to check up on that, and I'm gonna need someone to hold my hand, please, honey."
Zed's gonna hold your hand. Are you casting scrying?
Yeah, same deal. So on Elisha, -5 to the whiz save because she's very familiar to me.
Elisha cannot mechanically beat your spell save DC with her whiz save modifier. She only has a +1.
Okay, what's going on in Elisha world right now?
Elisha is sitting in a plush recliner in a room that you recognize as the study where you had that conversation with your father a few days ago. She is lounging boredly as a radio plays what you recognize as your speech from this afternoon at the Senate. Across the room, you see, or rather don't see, that weird non-space that is your father's presence because of the non-detection spells that he's getting re-upped on him. And from that weird non-space, you see a teacup fly across the room and shatter against the wall next to Elisha. Elisha raises one eyebrow archly and says, "Are you done?" Elisha snorts quietly to herself and says, "Well, dear, they come by it honest." Well, as always, I suppose it's time for me to clean up your mess. It's not going to be pretty this time, though. You've rather painted yourself into a corner, love. Alasha grimaces and then stands up and walks closer to the desk. Not for a while. You remember what a disaster it was when Adana found us out. What it took to make that little problem go away?
Leo goes absolutely rigid where he is gripping his crystal ball.
Alasha puts both hands behind her back and paces a couple times in front of this desk, and then says, "This is a much larger scale than that, and it'll take a larger solution. I have something in mind, but you won't like it. There is kind of a shifting in this non-space, like your father is moving, and then Alasha circles the desk, and it's the weirdest mindfuck because she puts her hand out and you know that it is on your father's shoulder, but you can't focus enough to see that that's what's happening. It almost gives you a migraine instantly. But then Alasha says, "Well, there's no erasing a murder confession from the collective consciousness of thousands of people, and we're losing more ships by the day. One could bring up the fact that if you had spent 2 minutes consulting with me rather than posturing for the little brat, we could have prevented this, but..." You get the impression that she is squeezing at his shoulder, but again, you can't focus in. You can see her hand and you can see that it is tightening, but you can't focus on anything else. You watch her lean down, presumably so her face is closer to his ear, and she says, "Darling, the only thing we can do to keep people on our side is give them a bigger villain to rally against. But that sort of maneuvering is going to come with a cost." She leans even closer, kind of tilts her head. You get the impression that she is pressing the side of her face to the side of your father's head. "You said it, not me. Last call. Are you sure you want to do this, Marlon?" You get the impression that a hand is running back through Alasha's hair and pressing her a little bit closer. And you can see the ends of Alasha's hair just shaking.
I think at that point, Leo loses concentration on this scrying spell. He just stares down at the empty crystal ball between his hands, completely still, not moving. When Adana found us out, what it took to make that little problem go away. They always told me that my mother got sick. That something happened with her mind, and they told me it was my fault. My whole life, they told me it was me. And he's gonna go to chuck the crystal ball at a wall.
I think Zed grabs Leo, and Fee grabs the crystal ball. So Fee takes it and just very gently puts it on the table, and Zed just tugs Leo really, really close.
Good fucking luck, Zed. Leo is in full feral raccoon mode. He is just trying to claw and throw and destroy everything off the table or anything he can get within his reach.
Zed's gonna roll a grapple check really quick. That is a 4.
And per the 5e grapple rules, I can choose acrobatics or athletics to get out of that. I'm gonna choose acrobatics because Leo gets a +5. Well, I rolled a nat 1, but it's still a 6, so I still get out.
You rolled a nat 1, the fuck you do?
Critical successes and failures do not matter on ability checks.
Grapple is a combat move, and critical failures do matter in combat.
Fuck. Okay. Leo manages to knock a couple papers off the desk then, I guess, and then just collapses against Zed's chest, sobbing.
Zed holds you really close, really tight, and just buries his face in your hair and just makes shushing noises as he rubs your back. And you feel Fee's hand close around yours as you just cry yourself out here. And that's where we're going to end this week.
With each consecutive recording session, the method of Morlun Valcynes' death gets more and more gruesome.
We can only hope. Next time
on Compelled Duel. Hey everybody, Barry here with the postscript, just clearing up a couple housekeeping things here at the end of the episode. As always, I'm going to go ahead and plug our social medias. You can find us on Twitter, Tumblr, and TikTok at Compelled Duel. We have a lot of other cool stuff, like an official Spotify profile, an official website. You could find all of that linked on our various social media profiles. We also host a Q&A live stream every week on our YouTube channel, so if you want to head on over to YouTube and search Compelled Duel and subscribe to us over there, we'd love to see you come hang out for that. It's a lot of fun. If you like what you're hearing so far on the podcast and are interested in supporting us, we ask that you consider heading over to patreon.com/compelledduel, where starting at just $2 a month, you get access to all kinds of cool patron perks, including but not limited to early access to episodes, access to bonus content and exclusive Spotify playlists, and even handwritten letters from your favorite character every month. If you'd like to support us in ways other than pledging to the Patreon, we ask that if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, that you leave us a rating and a review, since that helps us get promoted to a wider audience. And as always, word-of-mouth advertising is the most powerful tool we have at our disposal, so if you like the podcast, we just ask that you tell a friend about it, and if they like it, ask them to tell a friend as well. And in other news, we did just open our official merch store, so if you're interested in getting any kind of cool Compelled Duel merchandise, you can head on over to compelledduel.myshopify.com. We have lots of cool stuff, t-shirts, stickers, notebooks, buttons, pretty much anything you can imagine. And with that, our next episode is going to be going live on Friday, February 4th, 2022. If you're a member of our Patreon, you'll be getting access to that on Thursday, February 3rd. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you next week.